Former President Donald Trump is urging the EU and NATO to take a tougher economic stance against China and India, proposing tariffs as high as 100% on their imports. He argues this move would pressure Russia to end its war in Ukraine by targeting its key economic partners. Trump's demand, delivered during recent US-European meetings, is part of a broader push for a unified economic front. He insists that only coordinated action, major sanctions and steep tariffs, will isolate Russia and cut off its support. The U.S. Treasury Secretary has echoed the need for stronger, more unified restrictions, but stresses that European cooperation is essential. Trump's latest statements call for NATO to impose tariffs of 50 to 100% on Chinese goods, aiming to weaken China's leverage over Russia. This marks a dramatic escalation, turning global trade into a new battleground in the Ukraine conflict. Trump targets China and India because they're Russia's biggest oil customers, providing Moscow with vital revenue to fund its war. He believes that heavy tariffs and pressure to halt energy purchases could choke off Russia's financial lifeline. In 2024, China bought 109 million tons of Russian oil, about 20% of its imports, cementing a deep energy partnership. India too ramped up Russian oil imports to 88 million tons, now making up 35% of its oil supply. The Trump administration has already slapped a 25% tariff on India for its Russian oil trade, but has hesitated with China due to a fragile trade truce. Now, Trump signals he's ready to risk that truce, putting both China and India in his crosshairs to force a resolution in Ukraine. For the EU, Trump's tariff proposal poses a major economic risk. The EU-China trade relationship is massive, over $860 billion in 2024, making China the EU's top import partner. Imposing 50 to 100% tariffs would disrupt European industries reliant on Chinese components, driving up production costs and consumer prices. Electronics, appliances, and other goods would become much more expensive, fueling inflation and hurting households. The EU's trade deficit with China is already huge, and tariffs could worsen economic pain before any strategic gains are realized. Tariffs on India would have a smaller impact, but could still complicate trade talks and supply chains. European leaders now face a tough choice: pressure Russia or risk economic fallout at home. The stakes are high and the costs immediate. The global response to Trump's tariff push is mixed. Some EU members are open to targeted actions, but a blanket 100% tariff is a hard sell. The EU has already slashed its reliance on Russian energy, making some leaders question the need for drastic new trade measures. China quickly condemned the proposal, calling it unhelpful and insisting it remains neutral in the conflict. US and Chinese officials are now meeting to try to ease tensions, while India is negotiating to avoid further penalties. Trump's threats may be more about leverage than immediate action, using tariffs as bargaining chips in broader trade talks. The outcome remains uncertain, with diplomacy and economic pressure both in play. The world is watching to see if this escalates or resolves. Trump's authority to impose sweeping tariffs is now under legal challenge in the U.S. Supreme Court. Lower courts have ruled that his use of executive power in trade policy exceeds legal limits, putting the entire proposal at risk. If the Supreme Court rules against him, future presidents may need Congress's approval for major tariffs, shifting the balance of power. Meanwhile, tensions between NATO and Russia are rising, with recent drone incidents prompting a stronger NATO presence in Eastern Europe. Trump's frustration with Putin is growing, but his options may soon be limited by the courts. The fate of these tariffs, and the global economic order, hangs in the balance. As legal, diplomatic, and military pressures converge, the world faces a period of deep uncertainty. The next moves could reshape the conflict and the global economy for years to come.